You know, there are just some people that you just cannot reach.
The third world, you're going to become the third world.
It's
now, you're probably wondering what prompted that, or what prompted this redheaded liberal from England to say what she said to the let's just say the girl who runs the Libs of TikTok channel. Now, guys, before we get started on this, I want you to know right now that this was the only planned video for Tuesday, but of course there may be another video coming out a little bit later on in the afternoon, especially given the fact that the Supreme Court handed out a decision. And of course, we got to talk about media manipulation because it's already started. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the video and kind of give you guys a bit of an update of why it is that you may hear me say this is the only video of the day from time to time. Obviously, it's got to do the algorithm. It's got to do with helping you guys catch up. But still, though, there's a lot to go through in this video. And, of course, it's not just the T agenda. It's also immigration. And we have to ask ourselves a question. Is the third world being imported into the first world? But before we get started, we obviously need to look at exactly the merits of this conversation. So, Piers Morgan. And I have, let's just say my feelings on Piers Morgan are a little bit more mixed. He's gotten better as of late, but still at the same time, he's still very, very much an anti-Second Amendment Brit. Now, before we get into this, I need to go ahead and say this. If you are on the right in a country like, say, England or maybe any European nation or possibly even Canada, chances are your politics are the equivalent of what the Democratic Party here in the United States used to be. And what I mean by used to be is not Barack Obama. It isn't even really, I would say it's probably somewhere a combination between LBJ, Jimmy Carter, and Bill Clinton. Not too far left, even though definitely too far left, as in too far left for somebody like myself. Go ahead and call me whatever. I really and truly don't care. But the fact of the matter is, if you're on the right in England, chances are you're just the equivalent of the old Democratic Party here. But still, though, with that right there being said, though, Piers' channel Uncensored, he's actually been pretty good on some issues, especially when it comes to issues that you would probably think that he would probably take the opposite stance of, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about, because let's be honest, by the time you get done with this, you will figure out that these people are, in fact, NPC, soulless, and, of course, just good old-fashioned contrarians. Some people you just can't reach. With that right there being said, let's go ahead and get into this.
Success posted publicly by, well, Libs, such as this recent post of a man in a dog's mask with a comment, "There's a serious mental health crisis in this country." Well, Haya Raychik is the creator of Libs of TikTok. This weekend, she sparred with Washington Post reporter Taylor Lorenz, who was mystifyingly wearing a mask outside. The encounter went viral and was variously described as unhinged, cringeworthy and agonizing, with both parties being on the receiving end of all of those criticisms. Here's a taster of what she said.
So that was roughly 30 seconds, just to kind of, give you guys a bit of a starter on what exactly is going to be happening. The next thing we're going to be looking at is roughly over a minute. There was a debate that occurred about a week and a half ago, not this past weekend, between Taylor Lorenz, the girl who got mad because after she doxed the girl who runs Libs from TikTok, Taylor Lorenz then turned right back around and got doxxed right afterwards. Then it led to the iconic photo that is on Haya's shirt. I'm going to try everything I can not to mispronounce her name. It's just very odd here. And you're probably going to hear me do the exact same thing when we talk about Tyrus here in a few seconds. I may call him Tyus from time to time, but of course, it's just, I don't really mean to do that. It's just kind of how I talk. But still, though, bear with me. The thing is this right here. This little debate was had roughly over a week ago. And of course, in this little debate, it was roughly about 5 minutes long. It was just which I'm guessing was just the edited version. I'll try to link it in the description box. It went viral all over Twitter. A lot of people were saying that Libs of TikTok owned Taylor Lorenz. And a lot of people said that Taylor Lorenz owned the girl from Libs of TikTok. It's just how the internet operates. People on the left are going to say the right-winger got owned. People on the right are going to say the left-winger got owned. Even though the girl from Libs of TikTok does not strike me as the most conservative person in the world, she just strikes me as a more sane, rational human being who wants to expose the crap that's going on in our institutions, preferably elementary schools. Now, with that right there being said, let's go ahead and look at this minute or so and then come back and talk about the hilarity of the situation and how it was that we got to somebody saying that this is disgraceful.
I'm asking you, why is it that people have to live under your sort of view of gender? And
it's not my view, it's science. It's facts, it's biology. There's nothing logical about chopping off kids' body parts. There's nothing logical about giving kids porn in school. The whole trans it's based on a lie. You can't change your gender.
personally, my feeling is where a lot of people for their middle school graduation, women got nose jobs. I was just wondering, out of all the books that you've sort of tried to get removed, how many have you read?
I've read a couple of them.
Which ones?
Gender queer. I've read This Book is Gay. My Shadow is Pink.
And what do you consider gay porn in these books?
This is a blowjob.
In the conservative movement, there's this ideology around sort of white nationalism, which is obviously kind of a hardline ideology. How do you feel about sort of aligning yourself with those people on account?
Not all cultures are equal.
Really quick, editing Paul here. I just wanted to say this. And when I say editing Paul, I'm actually giving you guys my real name. I want to say this. I just realized I missed something. The thing that I missed was the fact that the books was brought up, and of course the fact that Taylor Lorenz was accusing Haya of, how do I say, basically not being honest and not knowing what she was talking about. Obviously got smashed the minute that Haya mentioned the fact that she had actually looked at the books that Taylor Lorenz called us a bunch of evil white supremacists and bigots for bringing up. Because obviously these books don't need to be anywhere near our children, and Haya, she actually looked into this, so obviously she showed up much, much more prepared. This is one of the main reasons why it is that when the left says that Haya got owned, they're just being loony. And by the way, she's correct. Not all cultures are equal. Now, guys, I hope you didn't think that I was not going to point out the fact that Taylor Lorenz, who, by the way, is on Haya's shirt, the famous iconic photo of her crying victim to the mainstream media after she was doxxed by Libs from TikTok, which is funny because, as I mentioned before, Libs of TikTok got doxxed by Taylor Lorenz like a couple of days prior to that. Funny how that works. But still, though, the fact that she's wearing a mask while outside in broad daylight with no COVID restrictions should tell you exactly where these people are at. And what I mean by where these people are at are obviously where they are at mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Makes you wonder if it's almost like something that's just got to be kept up just for appearance's sake. I really don't know what these people's problems are, but don't worry, when we get more into the meat of this conversation, you will see exactly how soulless these people have in fact become. And speaking of that, I think we need to go ahead and get to that conversation. So what's the deal here? So you could talk about the T agenda. You could talk about the agenda that's going on in our elementary schools. Libs, of course, coming after our children. And, of course, Libs of TikTok has been very instrumental in exposing these people. Basically, what happens is, and we've talked about this on this channel multiple times, back in the days where we were covering more of the T agenda rather than immigration, the thing is this right here. These people would come out and they would post some of the craziest takes. They would post the fact that they had a pride flag in a classroom. They would post the fact that anybody who was white was just a racist. Anybody who was half white wasn't even really half white. Just all kinds of crazy stuff that would be posted to the internet, things that you normally would not post. Now, I need to say this before we go any further. In a sane, rational society, you would not think that anybody would be posting said type of information on the internet. I'll give you a good example of what I mean. I am a gun owner, okay? One of the things that I grew up with as an actual gun owner in a loving family that taught me responsibility when it comes to my guns or how to handle said pieces of equipment, which is what I call them, because really at the end of the day, a gun is nothing more than a tool, and I'm very, very pro-Second Amendment. I don't think the government should be restricting access to firearms through the ATF or anything like that, which is something that we're dealing with today. The thing is this right here. You never post what you have on the internet. You just don't do it. I mean, unless maybe you were trying to sell some products, which of course are products I'm assuming do not belong to you because you're probably an FFL dealer at that time, just taking a wild guess, that's more than likely what happens, you would still not post that to the internet. Which makes it kind of curious why it is that people would post such thoughts about children and certain lifestyles to the internet. You just would not do this in a sane society. So when you hear the question that the redheaded liberal is going to ask Haya, that question, of course, being, what are you providing to society, which is not exactly worded the exact same way I said it, she's obviously providing a lot to society and to her nation by exposing these people who think it's a good idea to put this type of crap on the internet. But thank God they did, so that way we can know exactly what's going on in front of our children and what our children are seeing every day, the agenda that they're being exposed to, which I will reiterate the reasons why they're being exposed to this more so towards the end of the video, but we will get there. So let's go ahead and get in this conversation.
Do you have regret about some of the consequences, albeit they may not have been your intention?
Well, I don't think it's fair to say that my tweets led to harassment. The media, they like to accuse me of violence and bomb threats and stuff, and there's no evidence that it's my followers doing that. It's just, if I'm responsible for any of that, then the media is responsible for the death threats that I get after they report on me in a malicious way. So I don't think that that is accurate to say that.
And when you say, for example...
what is being talked about in that 38-second clip? Well, the thing about Libs of TikTok is that the girl, obviously Hyatt, she's been attacked a lot recently, okay? She's been attacked about tweets that she's put out, the fact that she's obviously exposed these very, very sick individuals. And, of course, the people who are being exposed are, quite frankly, upset that they're being exposed. Let that sink in just for a second, folks. Just let that sink in for a second. So the person who is trying to attack your children, the person who's trying to force a certain agenda on your children, is mad that parents may have seen a TikTok that was exposed by a girl who put it on the internet, that their lifestyle or the things that they're trying to teach kids, which quite frankly parents do not approve of, they're mad because they're being exposed. It makes me wonder exactly what the true problem here is. I hear a lot of people talk about hopelessness, depression. I know I said hopelessness this a very, very weird way. Depression, loss of purpose, whatever. But I think the real problem in today's society is good old-fashioned lack of accountability. You see, the left, they love to accuse you of what it is that they do. That's kind of their MO. There's a lot of projection. And we could get into that right now, but I don't think I'm going to have to. But at the same time, I think you'll understand what I mean by the time we get done with this video. The point is this right here. The only thing that Libs of TikTok is doing is just simply using the internet to expose these sick, creepy people who are trying to push an agenda on children. But we got a little bit more to talk about.
Say, for example, that not all cultures are equal. What did you mean by that?
If you look at what's going on in the West, they're importing the third world, and there's constantly videos all over. It's very easy to find. And I think if you import the third world, you're going to become the third world, and it's scary. And I did explain it. You played the clip, Piers. We're bringing in people who don't want to, Taylor used the term melting pot, but they don't want to join the melting pot. They don't like America. They don't like what we stand for.
Okay, Ava, you were saying that was disgraceful. Why?
Well, I'm just sort of confused because I'm not really too sure what you're adding to America or what you're actually contributing in comparison to this, this quote unquote importing third world. What are you talking about? People who migrate to America or people who migrate to the UK and then, I don't know, work in your health service and, work for you. What are you actually contributing? Just because the colour of your skin is white doesn't mean that you are somehow more valuable than someone else.
Now, really quick. You guys just saw a little bit more of that, and you obviously caught this word here.
The third world, you're going to become the third world.
It's obviously, the red-headed lib is obviously upset. However, what I didn't tell you before is that there was actually a lead up to this little bit, which I'll play for you guys in a second. It's actually a thing that Tyrus caught some flack over, which we'll get to here in a minute. But I need to say this before we get to that. Taylor Lorenz, let's go back to Taylor Lorenz for a second. Taylor Lorenz, she is the journalist who doxed Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok, in turn, doxed Taylor Lorenz. Taylor Lorenz, the minute she got doxed, she went to the news media, went out there, and started crying over being doxed and being exposed. Now, if you don't know what doxing is, I'll go ahead and tell you what doxing is, if you're new to the channel or new to the phrase. Basically, what doxing is, I probably should have done this earlier, but I want to go ahead and do it now. Doxing is when you basically go online and you get a hold of a person's information, where they live at, their address, email, all that type of stuff there, and you put it on the internet. Some people are so loaded they dox other YouTube content creators as families. I've already told my family about this. They won't be touched or anything. It's private, get all the security in the world, but I'm pretty sure at some point in time that I will be doxed because, as I've said before on several occasions, I will never be leaving the internet. But still at the same time, though, it's basically somebody who's mad that they got punched back. I mean, that's basically what this part boils down to. But as I mentioned earlier, let's get to how exactly we got to this part in the conversation, because as Tyrus is going to explain, there's limits to just about everything.
Just like anything else, a pack of cigarettes. In America, you got to be 18. If there's a book that has as high sexual content or instructions or a biography, it needs to be labeled and such. And if a child is curious or has those questions, that's a book that needs to be checked out with their family. So there needs to be access to those things, but we need to remember to be adults in the room. Anytime, like I said, if you would have said, if they would have said, hey, let's sit down and read this book together and actually figure out what's wrong. And that's boring, and it's a long thing, because in America especially, we're all parrots. We only want to read about 8 lines, if that, and then we take that and go argue with it. And we're seeing that on TV. We see everyone, like people like us, we come on, we read the headline and read a little paragraph. No one's actually... So you got to do the work. You got to go find the books, and then you can have a real conversation. We don't have real conversations anymore.
Yeah.
We're parrots, we repeat stuff, and whoever barks the loudest gets the most likes and tweets. So Libs is not doing anything that CNN doesn't do, every news media doesn't do. Look for a gotcha moment. Someone said something, they take it out of context and place it. Here's the thing, the Libs aren't even doing that. They're just putting it. So keep doing what you do, but I'm sure if you watch me, you can make fun of me on something.
So basically, at the end of the day, everything is free speech, which is really how this entire section started. I cut it down for the purpose of time, but I'll link the full bit in the description box. The thing is this right here. You got to be a certain age about cigarettes. You got to be a certain age about alcohol. You got to be a certain age to have a certain type of account online, like, say, Pornhub or something like that, something I don't endorse, but still at the same time, you got to be of a certain age to have these types of accounts. The same conversation came up a long time ago when Tim Pool debated Emma Vigeland. And, of course, a part of what happened in that conversation is the kind of sort of some of the meat of this conversation here, which we'll get to here in a second. The thing is this right here. In the conversation that Tim had with Emma Vigeland, I'm going to very briefly go through it real quick. Emma Vigeland was mad because Tim Pool was calling out the fact that the left had not called out the LGBTQ agenda that was being pushed in classrooms. Books like Genderqueer, This Boy is Blue, the type of sick stuff you would not want your child to be exposed to. That they're trying to say is that us demanding that crap be removed is equivalent to book burning and censorship. No, it's not in any way, shape, or form. It's just basic common sense. Obviously, you would not want a 5 or 6-year-old child, or even a child as old as 12 or 13, being exposed to this type of nonsense, especially in elementary school. So to say that we're book burning is absolutely crazy. This is just kind of how they do things. They're very, very hyperbolic. They're trying to look for any argument that they can to stay somewhat relevant. The truth be told is the best thing you can do for people like this right here is just simply just pat them on the head like a dog and just send them on their way. Just pay them no mind. That's the real truth of the situation. And of course, you're going to hear me come back to this over the topic of this video. But basically what Tyrus is saying in a lot of ways is that there's limits to just about everything you do. And of course, he's trying to say that nothing that not Taylor Lorenz, but Chaya is doing is any different than what the mainstream media is already doing. They report on this type of stuff all the time. They grab stuff from the internet, stuff that goes viral, and they report on it. They talk about it. It's a story. It's kind of what they do. And while it is the media is the enemy of the people, every now and again, they will get something correct. And every now and again, they will bring up something that, quite frankly, is relevant. But still, though, how did we get to the point to where it was disgraceful?
In comparison to this, this quote unquote importing third world? What are you talking about? People who migrate to America or people who migrate to the UK and then, I don't know, work in your health service and, work for you. What are you actually contributing? Just because the color of your skin is white doesn't mean that you are somehow more valuable than someone else.
Well, like I said before, what Haya is doing is that she's reporting on and she's exposing pretty sick people in our society. I don't know if this lady knows this or not, but there was a guy the other day who was released. We found out was released from a jail in New York City by District Attorney Alvin Bragg, a poor-backed attorney, who found his way to the University of Georgia and come to find out that his wife was also an illegal too. And this young girl named Laken Riley, she got killed. She got killed while trying to get away from the guy who used blunt force trauma. And apparently we're finding out more and more and more that she actually was holding her own and that he got mad, lost it, and beat her to death. We're not trying to say that it's all Hispanics. We're not trying to say it's all people of color. I mean, because trust me, white people can be criminals too. There's a lot of them as well. But when you actually look at the numbers, it looks to me like the people who are doing the vast majority of the crime aren't what we call white. But let's watch a little more.
To them. You got to stop doing the quick answers when you're interviewed, because now they're going to say you're racist because you're just being on the grouping. When you group, and that's what she was doing back to you. She was trying to group you in because by the color of your skin, because you're racist, because you're putting out stuff and you're asking a question. If people are coming to this country not to assimilate, to do whatever they want. And what we're seeing on our streets and what we're seeing in the streets of London, not a lot of assimilation.
But you see,
there
what
are
I see
good
on your streets is,
American, or there are good immigrants that come here, but you can't just say, oh, well, sometimes when you group it, you ease it, but you don't want to group her. You want to make her into this racist person.
But
All
a lot
she's
of
doing
lot
is
of the
being
violence that you see in America is
no
perpetrated.
different than you, any news group. You're taking what she's saying, you're turning around to fit your narrative, and then you're throwing it back at her. Do some actual research on her. The woman's not racist at all. I'd be the first one to go at her.
A lot of the crime that you're talking about is perpetrated by American citizens.
Be better than that. Okay. You're better than that.
Right.
Now, I'll talk more about gotcha questions here towards the end, because this is kind of what the left does. Project, use contrarian language, stuff that quite frankly is not rational. If you've ever watched these types of debates, these types of conversations before, then you will obviously know what I'm talking about. Go back to what I was saying earlier about Emma Vigeland. Tim Pool says that this book should be banned because it shows actual sex acts between a certain community involving young children. And Emma Vigeland comes out and says that this right here is censorship. You've got a president right now here in the United States who has decided to allow unfettered immigration, people just coming across the border without no identification check, without no background check. And obviously, when somebody says you're bringing in the third world, this person over here gets pissed off and they get triggered, and they've got to make a point of it when it's pretty well common sense. And by the way, most of the United States, according to this recent poll, says that we need a wall. But let's watch a little.
Here's the thing. This is what happens. So she got asked like 700 major questions, and she tried to answer each one. And they're all gotcha questions. She said some cultures, and listen, America, when the melting pot, you come to assimilate. This is where, if I could give you any advice, do not do these interviews, because they're only designed to get you to ask you as many questions. It's like a rapid fire. Boom, boom, boom. And you're answering them as fastly as you can, and that's the problem. Each one of those conversations you had was at least a 40-minute conversation on, like, my show Outkick. That's not what she's saying.
I mean, it is what she's saying.
Here because this is it's not what she's saying.
I never mentioned skin color.
But you did. You said importing the third world, and we know what those connotations mean. Let's not play stupid here. We know exactly what you mean by that.
No. You are adding, I didn't get that from that.
You denied those videos that are constantly all over social media.
What videos?
The videos of the third world in the West totally destroying the cities. Look at videos of England.
Let me bring Tyrus.
Tyrus,
if I could just have listen.
Don't talk over each other.
Once again, editing Paul here to simply say that what Tyrus is saying, and of course Tyrus, and I know I just call him Tyrus, but Tyrus did allude to this during the interview that obviously Haya, the girl from Libs of TikTok, actually was more prepared because she knew about the books. And of course, Taylor Lorenz could not name off one of the books. I just figure I'd point that out before we go any further. I find it funny that Taylor Lorenz could not name the books that she's accusing. I just find it very, very weird that she's accusing Haya of being a bigot and white supremacist, white nationalist, and all that type of stuff there, when obviously Haya knows about the books that, quite frankly, we would like to see banned. And it's kind of a strong word. Yeah, just away from children.
Get her on her what she says,
but don't attack her skin. You're better than that.
I didn't attack her skin.
She said that my intent is to be a hate account, so...
I mean, it is. It's to capitalize on hate, fear, and loathing. That is it. And it's okay. You should
let Ava respond.
You can ask me what's my intent of this account. My intent is not to stoke hate.
Okay, but what,
you just accused me of that at the beginning of this interview.
What is I suppose that you're going to say that the intent of your account is to shine light on things that actually just don't need to be shone light on at all.
Well, obviously, if I was a parent, if I had children, even if I was a step-parent, obviously I would want to know if my kids are being corrupted in any ways. I just figured it would be a good idea to show you guys that clip so that way you guys can kind of see exactly how far these people are gone or how far gone these people are.
And as we saw from that interview, that where you were exposed, you're not really, you know that you're not actually exposing anything. You're not actually presenting any new danger to anyone. You're just shouting sound bites and hoping that somehow they land and they go viral.
So kindergarten teachers teaching their 4-year-olds that they can be transgender, I shouldn't expose that?
Right. Is it really any of your...
Now, basically what Tyrus is saying is that, like I said before, it's all just gotcha questions. These people have gotten to the point to where their souls are quite frankly gone. This right here is the actual truth of the situation. And there's even a moment during this debate, during this discussion, as I'm showing you now, where you actually see the literal facial expressions that these people have. And of course, you see Tyrus doing this right here, which I'll show you guys here in a second. But the point is this right here. These people on the left, they're gone. Not classical liberals, not classical liberals. I'm talking about the radical left. They've turned into contrarians, they've turned into soulless, and they've turned into good old-fashioned NPCs, non-player characters. They are just simply there to cause problems for regular people. And of course, a good portion of the world itself is starting to disassociate from these people.
Really
hold on.
hurting any American citizen?
I'm sorry. I think this is quite unfair. At the end of the day, I do think that a lot of the things that have been exposed by libs of TikTok are actually very valid. Like what the kind of content children are consuming in schools, the kind of things they're exposed to. You know, questioning the justification of taking off people's limbs and different body parts when you wouldn't do that for someone who's of rational mind. I think the problem that we tend to find is, when you're fighting on a side, you tend to effectively choose the path of least resistance and just say things that will connect, but you don't particularly articulate it. So I'm assuming when you say things like we're importing the third world, and I'm assuming this is what you're saying, you're talking about values. What kind of values are these people bringing into your country? Are they assimilating with the dominant culture? And I think these are valid points to make, because over the last few years, we've seen millions of people cross the southern border. They haven't been audited. We don't know what values these people are bringing into the country. We don't even know who they are. These are valid points to make. And unfortunately, you don't get that opportunity to effectively articulate that properly when you're doing short form interviews like this. So I think
there is something that I do need to say, so that way people can kind of know exactly how I feel about this. And this right here is going to be where I'm going to try to go ahead and kind of put an end to this video at. Here's the thing about immigration. I, at one point in time, as you know, used to be a little bit more lenient on this topic. A lot of this was because of where I live at. I live in eastern North Carolina. We have a lot of farmland. We have a lot of farmers. And, of course, we also brought in a lot of Mexicans who work the land. There was also a lot of not just Mexicans, but people who come from Central America as well. And normally what happens is they get here and they go ahead and try to apply for citizenship. So, therefore, they're already here. So, the thing is this right here, as long as you're not causing a problem or whatnot, we really and truly don't care. The problem is that when Trump came around in 2016, and even me, who was a bit of a never-Trumper at the start, would eventually become a Trump voter later on during the year when I found out what was really going on, he began to call this out. We began to look at it, and we began to see exactly how bad it was. People were being used for cheap labor, of course, the wages, all that type of stuff there, all the economical arguments, and the fact that a lot of these migrants were actually coming over. They were getting the temporary work visas, and they were sending the money back to their home countries rather than putting it to the U.S. economy. That type of stuff right there made me begin to change my mind on immigration. You're allowed to change your mind on something if you're actually hit with some form of earth-shattering, soul-shaking, revelation. Over time, the United States of America, we obviously allow people to come in, stay with the country, and of course they keep telling us that we're a nation of migrants, but we'll answer that question at a later date, probably in my immigration video, which is going to be a long one. Think about we'll say Italians, and I'm not saying this to insult Italians or anything like that. Maybe I'm complimenting. Let's talk about Italians just for a very quick second. Just use that as an example. Same thing with the Irish, too. When the Italians came over in the late 19th and 20th century, even as far back as that, they were bringing their culture with them. And of course, their culture eventually became kind of like the melting pot. They eventually began to assimilate in American society. Same thing with Mexicans, same thing with Hispanics as a whole. Of course, the people love to say that they love to use it as a broad term, and they probably shouldn't use it as a broad term. Maybe we should do it more through nationality. What I mean by that is if you're from Puerto Rico, obviously you're Puerto Rican. If you're Dominican, you're Dominican. You're from Mexico, you're Mexican. If you're else, basically that's what I'm trying to say. The thing is this right here. Over time, Chicano culture, it actually comes over, and of course, it eventually assimilates into American culture. It's something that, quite frankly, we actually embrace as a society, especially Italian culture and Irish culture. But the thing is this right here. The people who are coming over now, they're not trying to assimilate into American society. If anything, they're coming here just simply to send money back to their home countries and corrupt our society and take advantage of our society. As I've said before, I used to be very much a big-time proponent of immigration as long as it was legal immigration. I didn't really mind if illegal immigrants if you were actually following the law and not doing anything illegal, not stealing from people, not killing people, or anything like that. But over time, when you begin to see that the crime gets out of control, you start to see communities get jealous of one another, you start to see the country begin to divide more and more and more apart. After a while, you realize it's a problem, especially given the fact that the people who are coming over are not receiving background checks. And quite frankly, you have no idea where the hell they're coming from. So for somebody who is very, very much on the left, and even if it was somebody on the right who was talking about this, who, by the way, lives in another country, which, by the way, her country is also dealing with the same crap that we are dealing with. England has got its own immigration problem. Europe as a whole has got its own immigration problem. Yes, this right here is a problem. Haya is just simply telling the truth. She's just simply pointing out the fact that we are bringing in the third world. These people are not looking to assimilate into our society. They're not looking to even be a part of our society. They're here to create their own little societies instead, and that's also going to be dividing this nation in every which way but loose, and obviously we got ourselves a bit of a problem here. But as you guys can obviously see, these people are not exactly, how do I say, with it. They are not with us anymore, or at least their souls are not here. Maybe they had a soul at one point in time. I really and truly don't know. Maybe it's Satan. I really and truly can't say it. Maybe the devil is up in her. But still, though, at the same time, as you guys can see, these people, for the most part, are what? Just good old-fashioned, contrarian, non-player character NPC bots who don't have a soul and don't have a brain. And by the way, I'm not talking about classical liberals. I'm talking about radical, loony leftists like that woman there. Now, I said at the beginning of the video that I was going to reiterate to you guys why is they're trying to expose our kids to this said agenda. Now, obviously, we know what the hell is going on with immigration. They're trying to replace an entire race, okay? And it's not me. It's actually people of color. I think I've said this in several videos. I stand by that, and there'll even be a video on that, and there'll probably be a part of the immigration video I'm working on. But here's the reason why it is they're coming after our kids. Liberals don't have children. They don't. Fatherly.com released a study. There are several fertility studies that show that conservatives have more children and have been having more children since the mid-90s. It's because conservatives try to build homes. They try to build families. Liberals don't do that. Most liberals are more focused on their career, and some of them, of course, are focused on, well, whatever the hell Taylor Lorenz does, which, of course, I think it's still funny to me that this person still wears a mask while being outside with no COVID restrictions or anything, while COVID, I mean, I thought this person was vaccinated. It's just weird how these people are. I mean, look, if you're still wearing a mask right now at this moment in time and you driving your vehicle by yourself and you're wearing a mask, quite frankly, you deserve to be made fun of. And I normally don't tell people to do it. I'm not telling people to go out and make fun of you. I'm not telling anybody to do anything, okay? I'm just saying that you deserve it. That's all I'm saying, is that you do, in fact, deserve to be made fun of. You're wearing a mask while you drive, yeah. You're not very bright. So it's almost, I'm trying to keep it clean. But the real reason why it is that they're coming after our kids is very simple. They don't have children of their own. They're not going to have children of their own. It's a part of the agenda. They want to catch them when they're young. That right there is why they're trying to do it. And it's wholly evil. That right there is the truth about this agenda. My friends, is where I'm going to put an end to this video. Now, guys, I want to give you guys a couple of quick things. I've been saying it just about every single video for the past week and a half. I want to kind of reiterate this. This video was supposed to be the only video to come out tomorrow. The idea, of course, is to allow you guys an opportunity to catch up. So this is what's going to happen. On days where I've got more than one video, I'm probably not going to be releasing them 3 hours apart from one another. I'll probably be releasing them 5 to 6 hours. Like this video will probably come out tomorrow at like 12 or 1 o'clock, somewhere right around noon. Most of my audience, I'm guessing, due to the age, I'm guessing most of the people, I'm looking at my demographics, are about the same age as I am, so you're probably at work when you're listening to me run my suck for however long. The reason why is obviously I'm guessing most of you guys are probably on your lunch break, so I'm going to try to create like one lunchtime video and then one at night, and of course I'll let you guys know if this is the only video of the day. This right here was supposed to be the only video for Tuesday, but now that the ruling has came out, official ruling saying at 9-0, on the Trump case, I'm going to be doing a video on that tomorrow, kind of countering some of the things that being said, because the minute that ruling came out, these people automatically went into 2012 mode as far as how they were going to try to spin it. But we will talk about that tomorrow evening. That will probably be a nighttime video. Or I may move this video right here to the nighttime. I'm not entirely sure. I'll make up my mind more so towards the end because I haven't really scripted it out. But of course, I'm going to try to get that video out tomorrow, and of course this video here out tomorrow as well. basically what we're trying to do is try to go to 1 to 2 videos, maybe 9 videos per 7-day period. Of course, some days there'll be 2, some days there'll be 1. The idea is try to help you guys kind of catch up with exactly what's going on and what's being released. With that right there being said, guys, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.